Hello, NWI. Welcome to Bluer by the Lake, the podcast that explores region life through a blue lens. I'm your host, Tracy Martin, and hey, it's Barb Domer again, Valpo City Council member and VP, which I just discovered this, VP of the City Redevelopment Commission. Barb, it's so great to see you again. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Tracy, for inviting me. I'm excited about today's episode.
I know.
So,
Me too. We have so many awesome things to talk about. But let's go back in time a little bit. So, you've been into some good trouble since you were on the show last October talking about your community driven redistricting initiative. What's been going on about that since we first talked about it?
okay, so there was a bit of controversy at the very end. We did get okay, I'm going to say this I'm going to use this phrase because this is what I really believe happened is the big arm of the party of small government reached in at the 11th hour and said, I don't think so. We don't want to do this the way she's been planning it for, many, many months. And so there were anonymous amendments brought forward. And then one of my Republican council members, came forward a day later and accepted responsibility for submitting the amendments. So after it's all said and done, I the vote was 6-1 to establish a redistricting commission, and I was the no vote. So we have a redistricting commission that's been established for Valparaiso. I did have some op-eds in the newspapers right after the vote because I felt I owed the public an explanation. It was very publicized, the whole process. And I'm super happy and super excited that we have a commission, but I felt like, I was attempting to do something on a nonpartisan basis. So,
Right.
the criteria for the redistricting commission was party uh, blind. So it was just bringing forward people from our community to draw the maps, and so that partisanship was inserted into it. So that was like the
Mm.
first criteria is we need Dems, Republicans, and this many and that many, and then the other thing that changed was the commission it was introduced as a 5-member commission, and it was changed to a 6-member commission. And I could not get a good answer as to why we have an even numbered commission, but essentially, I felt that that was too easy to deadlock. And what
Mm-hmm.
would happen
Yeah.
then is the maps would not move forward. The map would not move forward to city council for consideration. And so those two issues, I did address a few amendments. The
Mm-hmm.
mayor had suggested that we remove the compensation piece, which I did, because most people, just volunteer on boards and commissions. There are a few where you get paid, but I removed that. And then I had an amendment to allow the entire 7-member council to have a part in determining who the commission would be. But that wasn't, good enough. It passed. I'm excited about it, and I just hope that when the time comes, after the 2030 census, that the council that's seated will consider making some amendments, because I really
That's where I
feel
was
like
going to go. Is
yeah,
there
yeah, I think,
any? You
but
got?
it's
Okay.
great. I mean, it's great, and, we're the 4th municipality, and I've been getting a lot of interest from other municipalities throughout the state
Mm-hmm.
asking for a
Ooh,
copy of the
that's neat.
ordinance, and so it's really exciting. So anyway, that's the recap, but
This
it's all
okay.
good.
So it is, well, it's all good in some ways, and in some ways it's an well, it's good in that it's an example of what happens when partisan politics intersects at the local level as something as small and locally impact focused as a redistricting commission. Why can't
We could have done it by nonpartisan, and I mean, you're never gonna, completely eliminate politics, and actually, it would have been great if, there were considerations for making districts competitive, I mean,
yeah,
it could have worked, and I felt like it was a beautiful exercise in democracy that,
that's one way of putting it. The big,
yes.
beautiful redistricting commission. Well, okay, so you got the one big piece done. You got a commission established where before there was none, and now you have something to work with. And you've given people
Yes,
lots of platforms, and you've
ex
given them something to run on. So Valpo,
exactly.
step up, folks. If you don't want some sort of Republican numbnut gumming up your redistricting commission in ways to prevent you from exercising your constitutional rights, then you best get up and you best get running. I have a really great one of my favorite podcasts, one of my earliest ones where I was interviewing Mike Repay about run for office. If you don't like what happened with this redistricting commission and you want to have a seat at the table to make the choices when that comes around, 2030's we got a long way to go, folks. There's plenty of time to be like, maybe we could go back to Barb's fabulous idea of a nonpartisan redistricting commission. Um, Get going. Put it in your brain. Run. It's easier than you think. And Barb can tell you how.
Yes, yes. Anybody, if you have any questions, any interest in running, come talk to me because I just feel like, there's great things to come and I'm excited
Mhm.
about it. And so I would just love to share my journey with anyone who will listen and hopefully be inspired by it.
I find it inspiring. I really do. When I heard about that, I was like, now that's exactly what we need. Focused, smart, liberal leadership at a municipal level doing real world impactful things. Let's actually talk about something really awesome. Something that I saw this in my feed and I was like, and it sent me straight to my phone and I had to beg you to come on. Did you guys know that Valpo has a George Bailey? It's amazing. Affordable housing, Valpo. Is this for real, Barb? For real?
Yes, and
Is this so
we do like to, use the terminology attainable housing. Sometimes people hear that word, those words, affordable housing, and sometimes people stop listening to what you have to say after you say that.
Yeah, because it's
And
coded.
and so, you know, I just really feel and it wasn't my idea. I can't remember who suggested this to use that terminology. And I was like, I like it
It's
because it
damn
does
smart.
really, it broadens the reach of who we're trying to reach, right?
Mhm.
It's broadening that base of folks who we want to ultimately, stay in Valpo, buy their first home in Valpo, or relocate to Valpo, but, so basically, I guess I'll just say, you had mentioned at the beginning.
Tell us all
Yeah.
about this program.
Yeah, so, I have been on the redevelopment commission serving as vice president since 2024. And so, it's something that this has been a priority of mine and a couple other, city council members, but, when I first got on, the redevelopment commission, I'm going to read a few things because I just feel like this is, kind of like all setting the stage of, how I got to where I am. And, when the redevelopment commission was, organized and there was an ordinance that introduced it into the city, I read that ordinance because I was like, well, I want to try to figure out what the objective here of this, redevelopment commission is. And so, it's just, basically, the city council deems it to be in the best interest of the city and its citizens to afford a maximum opportunity for rehabilitation, redevelopment, and economic development of areas in the city. And so I was like, okay, I mean, I get it. I think, the redevelopment, economic development, and I'm like, okay, housing is economic development. And that's something that I really truly believe because, I think about all of the things associated with housing and it's like it directly connects with jobs, right? Because when you have housing, you got people, first of all, that are building the housing. So from start to finish, you're boosting local spending. So you're bringing people into the community that will live and spend in the community, which then is generating tax revenue for the community and attracting talent into our community because not everybody makes, $100,000 a year and, whatever, and can afford only these high-end houses and, improving like workforce stability. So it's really like housing is such an integral part of economic development that I'm like, we have to have a section of the RDC money that goes towards housing. And so, in 2025, there was a budget that was established and it was in the amount of $1 million, but it did, and we've only spent 50,000 in 2025 because it took us a while. And I'm not trying to say that, it's like, uh, okay, now we've identified this pocket of money. Now, what are we going to do? And so we had, as a commission, had to develop uh, guidelines. First, we had to determine of this budget, we've got three components, which is housing initiatives slash grants, property acquisition, and infrastructure. So those are the three components of the budget. And now in 2026, just to kind of fast forward, we have increased that budget to 1.75 million. So we have set aside in the redevelopment commission almost, close to $2 million for
Just for affordable
hopefully
housing?
I want to spend it all in 2026. I
Wait a
really
minute,
do. And,
confirm with me,
so,
Barb. That's
yeah,
all of that cash is for affordable housing.
yes, for attainable housing and
Attainable
what
housing.
we're, yeah, yeah,
1.7 million? You are investing $1.7 million in Valparaiso for attainable housing. Oh my
correct,
god,
correct,
that's
correct.
amazing.
Yeah, and really, because it's about like this, what we call, also the missing middle. So it's like we have plenty of high-end housing in Valpo. There's no question about it. You got housing starts at 450 or whatever, starting, development starting at $450,000. And so, we know we've got that end covered. Affordable housing, lower income housing. We're not uh tackling that right at this moment. What we're focused on is the missing middle, which is 60 to 100%, 120% of the area median income, which as of 2024 in Valpo, it was 65,900. So that puts people in this group, like that would be eligible for uh, grant assistance or for developers who are building houses that ultimately would be people in the 39 or 40 to $80,000 income range. And that's probably ratcheted up just a little bit, to reflect 2025 numbers. But basically it's, police, firefighters,
Teachers.
teachers, nurses, EMS, these are people that are providing essential services in our community that are at this income level and are unable to tap into the Valparaiso housing market. We want them to stay in our community. I don't want our teachers to have to live in another community and commute into Valpo because they can't afford to live in Valpo. So, it's a really exciting time right now because the city and that's one thing I forgot to kind of lead it off with is that, the city has recognized this, right? So it's like we recognize as a municipality that we have an issue here, right? We have to close this gap between what people can afford and what the private market, is providing. And so the city recognizes the fact that we have to step in and try to help close that gap because we want people to stay in our community. We want young people to stay in our community. And I when the city council approves the school corporation budget, and when we were reviewing and going through the meetings and everything like that, the superintendent had mentioned that the enrollment at the Valparaiso Community Schools, K through 12 from 24-25 to 25-26 is down by 70 students, which isn't a lot, but it is down. And we were projecting
Hmm.
that it was going to go up by 100. But
That's
what's
interesting.
more startling is the kindergarten enrollment has dropped by 9% from
Mm.
just last year. And it's the lowest level of kindergarten entries in the last 9 school years, and it could be even lower going further back, but I don't have that data.
No,
And
no, no,
so
you're not wrong. That because that is the bellwether. Because that is your next generation in your community, and if people are not moving to Valpo for your schools because they do, where are they going?
exactly, and, there's a lot of, there's other factors that are, like driving maybe why younger people aren't, starting their families, but one of them for sure is that we do not have an affordable community for young folks who have
Mhm.
little kids or who are thinking about it to, to kind of step into the market because you got to get into the market once you're in there in your first house. Then,
Mhm.
as time goes on, then, maybe you move up and you have a few kids or you move to a different, more desirable neighborhood, whatever the circumstances are. But the first step is typically the hardest because I think about, like, I've been a Valparaiso resident for 34 years. And when we first moved into the community, at that time, my husband already lived here, but it was like scraping together the money. So it's like scraping together the money to get that down payment, and then it was a brand new construction, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we have the money for the down payment, we have the money for the closing costs, we don't have any money left for the appliances
Right. Oh,
and
yeah.
new furniture. And so it's like, okay, so now
Sleeping
we
on
need
the
to get a
floor and
few
then your
grand
mattress,
more,
yeah, there.
to try to get everything in there. So it's like, I remember, back then, it was like, oh yeah, it takes a lot to get that first start. And so
It
this
does.
program is really exciting because it's like we are funding a program, the RDC, that's going to help people get into, their homes, and hopefully it's gonna be, younger folks, but it's the AMI, and even people with downsizing. Because again, I'm gonna share another story. Now I'm on the other side where I'm not in my first home anymore, but I live 3 doors down from the elementary school and down the street from the middle school. So I have a house that's too big for me. My sons are grown and gone, and not that it's too big that, it's unmanageable, but it's like I don't use half of the rooms
Right.
anymore
Why
except
do
for,
you
like,
wanna vacuum
storage
what you don't have
things.
to vacuum?
But if I sold my home and downsized, I would have to get a mortgage. Now
Mhm.
that doesn't make sense if I wanted to stay in Valpo, because it's like, "Well, wait a minute." And so even for people who are at the, like, towards retirement, and want to stay in the community, that, these households, it's like getting people at my age group to move out so young people
Can have
could
your
move
place.
in. And,
Yeah.
so the whole thing kind of just flows. But, this insertion of funding into a various programs, because, the first nonprofit that came forward with applications was Paradise Homes. Now, they are not connected to the city other than, people on the board. There are maybe employees of the city and things like that, but the redevelopment commission is not directing the construction. We're
Okay.
not connected with who's going to move, purchase those homes. What we are doing is the funding arm for nonprofits who are building homes in the community and partnering with for-profit developers to build homes in the community that are affordable and attainable by more people.
So I want to talk more about that in a second because I'm very interested in how, that public private partnership works and how we're ensuring that things are, that new homeowners are being protected. But I want to double down on exactly what Barb just said about economic development and homeownership being your gateway into building a stable life in a community. My husband and I, we came here with our 1-year old when the Obama tax credits for first time home buyers were just about to expire. We got our first house in Munster because of that, and it was the same story. But it was a little Cape Cod. We came here when we were a young family. I only worked part-time from home and stayed home with my kid. And here we are today. Rather, we stayed in the community. I've worked in multiple places in the community. We bought our next home instead of leaving. We stayed because we built roots here. We injected that income into the economy. I continued my civic engagement with Munster, and we're still here. And I would love it if my kids could stay here. I cannot begin to imagine. I'm just flabbergasted, and I'm really hoping that some Dems that are gonna be running for Munster Town Council are listening to this, because I want this in Munster. Our seniors don't have any place to move to when they can't handle a house like I have now. We need ways for our community to be more accessible to everybody that lives in there. It's amazing. But as a first-time homeowner, I didn't know boo. And we moved in. Our 2 days later, our basement flooded. We had a flood of contractors coming in, being like, "Oh, you need to replace all of this with $20,000 worth of work." And then somebody kind came out, FICMA guys, came out and is like, "We're gonna rod this out. It's tree roots, $200. Been grateful for the rest of my life." So how I know, I it's an example of how young people first entering the market don't really know what they're getting into. So if the city is involved in a public-private partnership, how does that work in a way that we're protecting young investors and first-time home buyers?
Well, I mean, what the piece that we are involved in with regard to the redevelopment commission is um, with the funding, okay? So it's like we have, that's so in terms of, like, the relationship between the first-time home buyer and the developer and the nonprofit, that's where what you're asking about, like, with regard to what the guidelines would be, like, are you saying possibly, if somebody wants to purchase a home, then, like, what specifically would you be, asking about with regard to
Well,
protections?
I mean, I looked at these homes. They look
Mhm.
beautiful.
Yeah.
They look like high quality, well-built homes. Is that part of the remit of the town, that as you're selecting partners to work with, they have to agree to provide certain levels of service or quality? Are there guardrails in place to ensure that what these first time home buyers are buying aren't lemons? Like, if you see where I'm going
Oh,
with that.
right. I mean, there are requirements that they have to, all of the housing permits, any of the construction permits have to be attained through, so through the city
Okay.
process. And so that has to be done. And the application requirements would require a budget, a site plan, parcel location, proof of site control, and so there's a list of requirements that have to be fulfilled before the
I
application could
see.
be considered. So,
So, and now, are these homes intended to be, I mean, like I said, they look beautiful. Are they going to be competitive in the housing market? Say, should the homeowner, age up into a bigger place?
um, well, the homes right now, like, I think they're priced at 279,000, which they're worth more than that, right? Because,
Yeah.
the one thing that happened, with these parcels, the nonprofit purchased 2 lots or 3, and then the city donated the other lots to yeah, to the, 501(c)(3), or in this case, it was Paradise Homes. And so, the builder was able to Paradise Homes was able to build a home for less when you have
Less
0,
land. I
essentially,
see.
land costs, right? But
I
then
see.
there's going to be, like, there is a equity share, and this is all on the, Paradise Homes. And I'm using them as an example because 'cause they're the first
Mhm.
one that applied for the grant. But, like, say somebody purchases the home, and then after 2 years, they do decide that they wanna leave, move, or whatever, and then the home goes up for sale. There are, first right of refusal, and then there's an equity share agreement so that, they're like, the homeowner is building equity as they're living there and paying it off, but also with the understanding that there was equity coming in from the nonprofit
I
to
see.
get the home to be at priced at what it was. And so if the person does decide, and I don't know all of the details on that. I mean, that would be something, it might be interesting to have, like, one of the, agencies come on and talk about it from that aspect
Indeed.
of it.
That's what
But
my mind was just thinking.
yeah, yeah, to have someone even, from Paradise Homes, which, could just kinda talk about, like, what their strategy is, and how they're moving forward. Because this isn't, I'm sure, going to be the only development. It's nice because it's in District 3, which is the district that I represent, so I'm like, "Yay." Uh, but, there's some kind of, like, a shared equity. The financing piece, I mean, yeah, like, if somebody wants to leave, I don't know, I'm not gonna be, talking as an expert on that, but that would be more of,
It's fair to say that there are some limitations so that we're not having people come in and buy the house, get all this assistance and then sell the house and, see you suckers. I've, pocketed the
oh,
150,000. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah,
There's
right,
ways that,
right.
your investment in homeowner. We like pups on this podcast, folks. Just a heads up. Um we they your investment in homeowners is going to be also recompensing the and reinvesting in and with the nonprofits. So if they leave, the nonprofits are going to get some of that money back so they can then reinvest that in the program. Is that the
Right,
idea?
that's like this capital stacking model, which is another interesting, this could be like a really, interesting a
Yeah.
podcast on its own, because we have,
God.
yeah, we've got some folks that are, teaching us about how things work in that aspect.
So
But yeah, this is
yeah,
supposed to
right.
be, yeah, like, it's really, this initiative, the city initiative, has many, partners, right? We just have
Mhm.
one that has applied, but there's so much more opportunity, which kinda leads me to, like, I'm not sure, if you've heard about this East Side Master Plan, in Valparaiso, but we have, acquired the RDC acquired 250 acres east of 49 and, north of, like, 500 or something, that originally was going to be used to build this regional sports complex,
Oh,
and
that. I
yeah,
remember.
yeah, and so there was a lot of controversy because then the, city backed off, because when the price quotes came in, it was, way more than what they had originally
You
intended,
already have
and
a
so it
why. I mean,
yeah,
that's
and so
that's pretty
now
amazing.
I'm on the stakeholder group, that is looking at working with the engineering company to, a firm to kind of, like, map out a master plan for these 250 acres. And on the northeast corner, I've been working very, very hard to secure the northeast corner. Wait, what was that?
I said, "Hurry up. Get those houses built there before somebody tries to put a data center there."
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, so I'm really lobbying hard for housing, single family and multifamily housing in the northeast corner. And so, we had a
This
survey open for several weeks, and now the results, it was closed yesterday for residents to chime in, and express their opinion on what they want to do. But I'm like, this plan is could be a decade long in developing, but I said not the housing part we can get done sooner rather than later because we already have some utilities in that area. So it's very,
Oh,
very
okay, so you don't
exciting.
have
So
to.
I'm interested. We have a group in the city, the Valparaiso Community Housing Partners, which is a group that's been formed and we had a couple of symposiums over the course of the past year to get the public engaged and aware of what's going on with regard to housing in our city. There were 3 city council members on the in the group, and so now we've advanced this group to have like a housing. We're calling it a housing activation committee, and now we're just seeking out a uh, 501c3 partner to help us connect with developer and with the goal of at least getting some of that, property developed again sooner rather than later. So it's a very exciting time. We have
Yeah.
opportunities here in Valpo to really, I want to say, I want to really spend this money. I want to spend $1.75 million in
Oh, yeah, you do,
2026.
because if you do, you will have set up Valpo for 25 years of explosive growth. That is there's just no other you will be attracting young talent. You will be attracting people that will invest in the community. They'll be raising their children there. It will improve your quality of life across the board. You will have a workforce where you wouldn't have had a workforce before. And people that are focused on developing and living in this high quality of life region because they can afford it. It's amazing.
Right.
Ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen, George Bailey. I okay, so have you seen has anybody moved in yet?
No, not yet. There's one person, there's one household that's close, but they haven't moved in yet. So,
Okay, so
and
please,
I haven't been in any of the houses, but I did get, offered, that I could go on a
please,
tour of one of the empty houses. So I got to
please
get in
do.
there next week.
And
Yes,
please
yes.
go that when they move in, please go in there and do the whole here's bread, so you never go hungry, and salt for life giving you flavor. Welcome these people into their castle because you did that. And that's amazing. So I know we've talked about this a lot, a bit, but in case I've missed anything, what are some of the downstream impacts that you are hoping for this from this program for both the homeowners and for the community?
Well, I mean, really, it's all about either keeping people in our community who are potentially renting right now, and rents are sky high as well, and bringing our one of the goals is keeping essential workers in our community, bringing young people into the community that are trying to get their foot in the door here in Valpo, and it's and we want people of all economic spectrums here. It's like Valpo, has been kind of like, oh, well, you got to have some money, move to Valpo and everything. But it's like, that's not what this community is. The fabric of our community is just made up of all kinds of people. It's wonderful. I love it. We just need to keep it going because it's harder and harder for people of just moderate or low to moderate economic means to to have a good quality of life in our community. And so this is one step in that direction. And I do want to say one other thing that I have been We have this budget of 1.75 million in
I
2026,
still
which I want to continue.
pause 1 second because
But
I
I
just want to linger on that number again really quick, guys. $1.7 million focused on attainable housing. I'm
Yes,
flabbergasted. That's,
yes.
uh, outstanding. That is
So, I know. It's amazing. I'm so excited. This is a really exciting time to be a part of the Valparaiso, city government, and I'm just like, I'm stoked. I mean, this is awesome. But what I wanna do next, I mean, have a I have a higher aspirational goal here. I don't know whether it's gonna work or not, but I'm gonna go for it because I've
alright,
been,
give
reading
it to
about
me.
how, other communities handle their, redevelopment budget, all that tax incremented financing,
Oh, Tiff,
funds are
my
getting
god.
diverted to redevelopment. So, Salt Lake City has a plan. So their comprehensive plan, of which Valparaiso is we're embarking on an update of ours, which another really exciting time. But because housing is going to be a big part of that. But what the Salt City Redevelopment Commission and the city has done is committed to a percentage of TIF revenue to be directed to housing on an ongoing basis. So, instead of saying, because we did have to work, I had to work a little bit to get this money, like behind the scenes, it's, get some more and more. But, so
Bring it,
I'm not going
sister.
to say lobbying, but whatever. But if we could get a percentage and say, like, I don't know what the percentage would be. I'm just kind of like thinking about it now and just saying, like, allocate it towards housing. So the more TIF money coming in, the more money going to housing. It just makes so much sense. As
It's
long as,
great.
because we have prioritized housing as an issue in our community that we need to address. And so it's like, as we get redevelopment dollars in, a portion of that goes to housing. So I don't know how that all is going to work yet. I still have to do my research. It's probably going to be some kind of ordinance, and I'll probably have to get, it might take a while, but I really want to do that because I think now that's the solution because so many residents are excited about what happened on Kinsey Street with these 5 houses. And it's like, I believe that our community would be all in on saying, yes, I want my diverted tax dollars that are going into the redevelopment commission. I want a portion of that to be committed to housing. I think it would be a huge win and wildly popular. That's my prediction.
Gonna make the same prediction instead of, say, having it go to another mattress store or a brow lifting place, lashes. Oh my god. Yes, or here to fund our police. I yes, economic development done right. Ladies and gentlemen, Dems do it better. That's how you do it. So, Barb, when are we going to get more houses?
We're working on it. We're working on it. I've got a lot of things, like little neighborhood I live in. It's a
Mhm.
older part of the town that, the city that's kind of close to the downtown area. And it's like when I walk my dog, I'm like, wow, that's an empty lot. I, I have never
Oh,
noticed it before. So, and it's like the
that's what
street
we
I live
have
on,
here.
there's a little couple parcels there and I'm really like looking, that's infill, I guess is, the terminology is just saying where do you get, how do you get
Yeah.
this? And so I've got some ideas, I'm just not ready to completely divulge them yet, other than the East Side Master Plan. Because if we could get like 100, I don't even know what the amount is, but if we could get that parcel of land secured for housing and say that that could be a goal within the next 1 or 2 or something years, wouldn't that be awesome?
And think about
I'm
what you
excited.
could do. You could could you put a school there if you needed to? Like, there's so much you could do with such a big space of land.
Yeah,
Amazing.
well, they have 2, conceptual plans that the architects, have rendered, and, they're I mean, there's a really nice portion of that land that is, you know, like, kind of wooded and hilly, and there's, like, a creek running through it, so that might be some just
Secret
natural areas that aren't gonna
park.
be developed because that's the it's like Valparaiso or this area, not just Valpo, but, geologically or geographically, whatever that
Yeah.
it's a very interesting place, it really is, and so that could be another episode,
Yeah.
Tracy, is just the Valparaiso moraine and the Continental Divide and water from Lake Michigan. I mean, it just
Mix that all
it's
up and look what
incredible.
you
The
get.
more I learn
You are a
Yes.
Valpo geek. There is no doubt about it. Love how much you love your community. It's amazing to see. Before we wrap up a little bit, Barb, can you tell folks how they can apply for this amazing and wonderful program?
Well, there are grant guidelines and the grant application. I'm pretty sure they're out on the RDC website, but I will confirm that. But, a 501(c)(3) would have to be it's not direct, to the person. It's
Mhm.
through the 501(c)(3) that has the partnership with the private developer to build, attainable housing. It would be like, you know start thinking about the 501(c)(3)s in the area that have been, involved in home ownership, even like, or home building, like Habitat for Humanity. I mean, these organizations that somehow, have always traditionally been for, affordable housing, like a lower income or subsidized housing. I'm asking them to like branch out a little bit.
Yeah, dude,
Like
it's your
yeah,
time,
like,
nonprofit. Let's
yeah,
go.
we have opportunities here, let's do it, so
Mhm.
really it's about getting our, nonprofits that are involved in housing engaged and reach out. I mean, you could reach out to me, our, development director is George Douglas, but there's information out there on our website, and so, we're gonna be working on getting, like, now that we have gotten the guidelines and the application and we've
Which is the
gone through
lift.
our first one. Yeah, it's really not now it's a matter of really getting the word out to the community
Mhm.
and going from there. So I think it's an exciting 2026 and
Well, I think I
I'm
can help
looking
you out
forward to it.
there. I am gonna broadcast this as far as I can. This is an amazing program. Um, I am so proud to know that in the region we have Dems that are doing the real work on supporting their constituents, supporting their communities with the real accessible fixes to the rampaging affordability of problems in our state. Attainable housing is something if you are providing the services of people that work and breathe and live and die in your community, you should be able to enjoy that in a few decent rooms and a bath. Um,
No kidding. That's the truth, and our legislators shouldn't be spending their time in Indianapolis focused on maps and redistricting when they don't need to be. They need to be focusing on getting people, focused on the economic impacts, of the disastrous policies, inflation. People can't afford to buy a house, they can't afford to rent, they can't afford to buy their food is, crazy expensive, and it's like so this is what we want our, state house to do is try to, focus on that instead of, focusing on drawing maps when you don't need to draw a new one.
no. But I'm gonna amend your list a little bit for at least for the people of Valpo. You can take affordable, attainable housing off that list because since our state legislature isn't doing it, since obviously the federal government was like pit to that, um, is here to fill that gap for you guys. Be happy that you've got her on your team. I certainly am. And I will be posting links to the Paradise Community Homes, they do have a lot of great information. Also, the information on the Redevelopment Commission's website, information how to reach Barb with questions, and hope to hear more about as people move into these homes and the impact they make on the community. I think this is the one of the most exciting things I've heard all year. And again, it's just an example, folks. This is what leadership looks like. This is what government looks like. Good government. This is what happens when you elect Dems. They do things like make it more easy for you to live and breathe and work, die in your communities in a couple of decent rooms and a bath. What is more basic than that? So thank you, Barb. Thank you for doing this for your community. Thank you for joining us today. And folks, that is it. Um, I'm gonna be honest, not been to the lake since it started, since the Northern Lights, but I'm gonna be posting some videos because I have some awesome pictures. I saw the Northern Lights at the beach and I was so excited. I thought I was gonna die. I was so happy. I've been waiting my whole life to see Northern Lights, and it's like a miracle. You look through your camera and they just appear like magic. But anyway, it was beautiful then. I'm sure it's
I'll look
beautiful now.
forward to seeing those. Yeah.
I know, right? I couldn't believe it. This is, again, a wholly a random digression, but I went and my son and I was about to give up. I sent my husband and my other kid in the car because they were like, it's cold. There's no lights. We're getting out of here. And my son begged me to stay, and I did, and I'm glad I listened because it was beautiful. So I'll share some of those pictures. I'll share updates as Barb feeds them to me about how this program launches. And in the meantime, have a lovely holiday season if we don't talk again. And if I do end up wandering up at the lake, hopefully I'll see you there. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.